What really took place that day behind closed doors? A rising star seemed to fall apart in the middle of the competition. However, the reality is more complex than a straightforward loss. Alex Eala, whose real name is Alexandra Eala, brought more than simply a racket to the international stage. She already represented optimism for Filipino tennis and the larger area at the age of 20. She had early training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, saw success on the junior circuit, winning a Grand Slam Girls Singles Championship, and started to draw attention in WTA competitions. Her 2025 breakout was spectacular. She defeated top 10 talent, entered the top 100 rankings, and raised the possibility that she would play a significant role on the women's circuit. However, expectations followed that breakthrough. Every time she took the court, there was more to the story than simply, can she win? Can she carry a country, represent a region, break new ground? Was the question. The tale included the strain of becoming the first Filipina to reach such heights. Then came the tournament in China, 8 Bell, setting where things did not go as planned and where the invisible finally came to light. Because the fissures were beginning to appear beyond the podiums and the wins. And those fissures would become wider than anybody could have predicted. Something occurred when the cameras snapped and the lights shined brightly, challenging not only her athletic game but also her whole emotional and mental balance. Could one moment in the locker room be the turning point? And was it exhaustion or something more deeper that caused the collapse? Everything seemed regular as she traveled to China for what seemed to be a standard extreme competition. However, match outcomes may not always provide a whole picture. Recent sources state that Alex Eala had yet another early departure. She lost 62-46-46 against Claire Liu in the Guangzhou Open's first round. Just the scoreline read like a tale of a comeback gone wrong, dominant at first, waning in the middle, and collapsing at the end. However, there were other concerning aspects as well. Rumors of an altercation in the locker room started to circulate behind the scenes. Minutes after she finished her winning match, the locker room reportedly descended into turmoil, according to several social media reports. She abruptly collapsed in the press room, according to another. The rumor quickly gained traction. However, no significant mainstream media source has confirmed the alleged locker room raid. Opponents or teammates unexpectedly invading the area. Tension is building behind closed doors, and officials are concerned. If accurate, it would be one of those few instances when the internal stress of professional athletics comes to the surface in an agonizing and visible way. Imagine being thrown into a room intended for introspection after a defeat, when your body is exhausted and your mind is racing, only to encounter conflict instead. The dressing area intended to be a haven for Alex. Rather, it turned into a storm. Unverified witnesses spoke to someone who was raising their voice, demanding answers, and maybe even getting access where they shouldn't. Alex Eala went wild when a referee humiliated her after her bout, according to one post. Chaos broke out in the changing area. This remains unchanged regardless of how well the details stand up under examination. Something snapped in her body and psyche. She did not have much time to recuperate due to the tournament schedule. First round exit is the public outcome. Beneath the figures, however, is a clash of physical fatigue, strain, and perhaps treachery. Then the collapse occurred. It happened suddenly. She seemed confused and even tearful at a news conference. We saw one item on the court. There was more going on behind the scenes. Alex Eala reportedly passed out in the press room. Her mother explained the current and the cause of it. It is natural to check for heat, dehydration, or injury when a great athlete fails. However, for Alex, the explanation got entangled in conjecture about internal collapse, external interference, and mental fatigue. Losing was not the catalyst, it was what came after. After the door to the locker room closed, what happened? What invisible power caused defeat to become a meltdown? The world's response and how the devastation extended beyond a single match are revealed in the next chapter. The news got out almost quickly. Tennis fans started analyzing the incident on Reddit and on social media groups. Did foul play occur? Was there an actual raid? A Reddit user commented on Alex's advice to younger athletes. When I was a young Filipina who played tennis, I used to worry whether I would ever get to witness someone from our nation. Just a few weeks before, there was a strong feeling of optimism, but now there was also worry. Her departure from China was described in headlines as another early departure, downturn, and collapse. What is happening to the rising star who had once defeated Grand Slams winners and raced into the semis in Miami? The public started to wonder. Tennis insider blogs, meanwhile, discussed whether the event organizers had acted improperly. Did the changing room have enough security? Were any entries inappropriate? The tour atmosphere for young breakthrough artists, according to some observers, is unregulated and an unseen pressure cooker where their fragility may be shown in unimaginable ways. Supporters from the Philippines came together to support her. Alexa affirmed she will return to the Philippines, said one Facebook post. After the WTA final, I sobbed and acknowledged that I had a major issue. In symbolism, it makes no difference whether that quote is entirely or partly proven. It resonates that she personally dealt with a significant issue that caused her to cry. There are two factions on social media. Detractors who questioned whether she was just not physically prepared for the relentless tour and supporters who thought she was victimized or caught off guard by strangers. Comments ranged from heartbreaking Alex Eala's devastating collapse at Gwanga mental breakdown analysis to Gwanga's shocking defeat at the hands of Claire Liu. Beyond sports, the climate of controversy hinted at weakness on a personal level. Due to the fact that Alex represented many matches, she served as a symbol. The public's response grew more intense when that symbol wavered. The raid on the locker room developed a life of its own. Fan theories, sports rumors, and panicked rumors. Did someone enter? After the game, was she confronted right away? Did officials come in? No one came forward with a whole story, but the suspicion itself strengthened the story of a celebrity under attack. And the story became worse each time she failed, left early, or stumbled. This is a symptom rather than just a slump. Can she withstand this level of scrutiny? The public started to wonder. Is the weight excessive? The athletes hide when everyone looks on. However, occasionally the hidden becomes visible. The crisis was now out in the open. What would the fallout look like next? Once the story of the alleged locker room intrusion and collapse gained traction, consequences rippled quickly. For Alex, the immediate cost was her performance. The scoreline at Guangzhou was simply the tip of the iceberg. Physical shape, confidence, and emotional vigor all diminished. Tournament draw after draw, she departed early. The decline became solidified. Expectations become doubts back home. Has the Philippines' rising star lost her way? Fans and the media in the Philippines alternatively voiced dissatisfaction and provided support. Some demanded that her team be more open. Others looked to the match schedule. Are the tournaments too numerous, the rest too little? Within the tour ecology silently, there were criticisms. Some experts thought Alex's coaching training crew potentially misjudged her load. Others noticed a young athlete thrown into high-stakes matches, significant championships, media attention with little precedence of how to manage the off-sea court responsibilities. There was also the purported raid on the locker room. If so, why had the players' entourage or security permitted such an intrusion? Why did not somebody come forth with a statement to put an end to the rumors if they were untrue? There was room for conjecture because of her silence or little explanation. Many people associate quiet with dread or guilt. The story of mental health in tennis has sparked a response. The media often blames heat, injury, or dehydration for the downfall of professional athletes. They seldom ever go into solitude, pressure, or intrusion. Uncomfortable questions started to arise in Alex's situation. Was she thrust into a limelight for which she was unprepared? Did the competition turn into a show instead of a sporting event? According to one Facebook post, her mother disclosed the cause. However, no credible major media source provided more information. Resentment resulted from the disparity. Where is the truth? Why are we left with half-stories? Inquired fans. Other players' responses, however, were quiet. There was caution. The tour's public relations team did not want to draw attention to an internal malfunction. As a result, the narrative veered between a personal crisis and a sports setback. And as a result, the consequences go beyond a single defeat. It is a change in story. Eala, Alex, evolved. She was no longer only the emerging star. It was she who fell. Perhaps more than any victory, she was defined by the person under examination and her moment in the locker room. Few aspiring sportsmen have to deal with such a load. When the locker room door opened again, The harm had already been done. Had the collapse permanently altered her tail, or could she still rebuild? What do we know, then, and what is yet unknown? First, Alex Eala lost early against Claire Liu at Guangga, 6-2, 4-6, 4-6. Second, while representing the Philippines, she has openly discussed pressure, pride, and emotional weight. In the United States, it means a lot, she said in an open interview. I believe you could tell by my response. I am very proud to represent my nation. Fact 3. No credible mainstream article has confirmed the specifics of the locker room raid or that the fall was officially or medically linked to an incursion or altercation. The leak appears in certain blogs and social media postings, but neither major media outlets nor tournament authorities have confirmed it. We now have to deal with the difficult issue of story versus fact. It is possible that the occurrence in the locker room is a combination of fiction and fact. However, myth has power, particularly when combined with ambition and pain. Even if the raid did not go as planned, Alex still believes that something entered her area since part of her breakdown and collapse could have been brought on by the idea of an attack on her secure surroundings rather than an actual act. Her answer was modest and mute. Maybe the group made the decision to keep her private. Maybe they did not know what to say. However, the myth spread since there was no conclusive answer. We also need to take into account her physical and emotional well. A young athlete with high standards, a worn-out physique, and a busy schedule. Scientific research has verified these stresses. Therefore, it may be appropriate to see the collapse as a symptom rather than a scandal. Whether true or not, the event in the locker room acted as the igniter in a highly combustible setting. However, there is still hope for a solution. Alex Eala has already shown tenacity. Her historic victory at the US Open, when she became the first Filipino to win a major slam main draw match in the Open era, shows that she is capable of recovering. Now, the issue is whether she will reset. Will she demand the sanctity of the locker room, limits, and protection for mental health? Because regaining control is the key to resolution, whether the tale is about access, incursion, or breakdown. It is possible that a system rather than a single incident is the secret cause of the collapse. The systems of pressure, access, and expectation. Then, the remedy goes beyond just getting back up. It has to do with reform. Rewriting her tale may be more important to Alex than winning matches if she takes over. She fell. But maybe she is getting up. Is this the